All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into Castellum.
Okay.
CTM on the stock ticker.
Uh-huh.
And it's a company that is, making some waves, at least in the cybersecurity world.
Yeah.
But also, raising some eyebrows on Wall Street.
Right.
And you've sent over some articles about their recent stock activity, and it seems like we have, maybe a head scratcher on our hands.
Yeah, I think what's really fascinating here, what really caught my eye, is this contrast.
Okay.
Castellum is considered a penny stock, right? Which are known for volatility, but their stock skyrocketed almost 140% in a single day right after Christmas.
Yeah.
And yet analysts are labeling it a strong sell.
Oh, wow.
So that's what we're going to unpack today, right?
Yeah.
Why is there this surge in interest despite that negative outlook?
Yeah, that 140% jump, that definitely caught my eye too.
Yeah.
So to understand this, we need to look at what Castellum actually does, right?
Absolutely.
What do they do?
So Castellum provides cybersecurity and IT solutions, primarily for government and commercial clients.
Okay.
They've been around for a while, but haven't exactly been a household name.
Okay, so let's talk about this stock ride, right? This wild stock ride.
Yeah.
The articles you send over mention this direct offering that happened on December 26th.
Right.
What's the significance of that?
Well, so they actually did 2 direct offerings back to back.
2
direct offerings, yeah.
That seems a bit unusual.
Yeah, and they raised a total of $7.3 million.
Wow, so that's a lot of money, but why do 2?
Well, direct offerings can be a quick way to raise capital.
Yeah.
But doing it twice in such a short period might signal that Castellum is really hungry for cash.
Okay.
Possibly to fuel rapid expansion or maybe to cover some unforeseen expenses,
Right.
It's something worth digging into a little bit further.
Okay, so they got all this money.
Yeah.
But what about, the impact on the existing investors?
Right. So each time a company issues new shares like this, it can dilute the value of shares held by existing investors.
Oh.
It's like suddenly having more people at the table sharing the same pie, right?
Right.
So their slice gets a little bit smaller.
That makes sense. But didn't these offerings also fuel, that big price jump, that massive price jump?
I think they certainly played a role.
Okay.
Penny stocks, they're known to be sensitive to this kind of news.
Yeah.
Some investors might see these offerings as a sign of confidence from Castellum.
Okay.
Which then drives up demand for the stock.
I'm also seeing this term under accumulation in these articles.
Okay.
Is that related to those investors who are, more bullish on Castellum?
You're right. Those terms are definitely connected.
Okay.
So some investors, they believe Castellum's stock is being quietly bought up by larger players who see the long-term potential.
Oh.
They're betting on the price eventually catching up to what they believe is its true value.
Okay, so that explains why some people are excited about it, but what evidence is there to support that?
That's a great question. It would involve looking at beyond the basic trading data.
Okay.
Investors who believe this theory would be watching for unusual trading patterns, maybe large buy orders happening away from the public exchanges, things like that, bit of detective work.
So we have this wave of excitement driven by, fundraising and speculation.
Yeah.
But does Castellum's actual performance justify this? Did their business do well in the last quarter?
Well, let's look at their Q3 earnings report, which was released back in November.
Okay.
That report caused the stock to jump almost 19% at the time.
Really?
So clearly something positive in there.
So what did this report reveal? Was it all good news?
Yeah. On the surface, the report painted a relatively positive picture.
Okay.
Revenue remained steady compared to the previous quarter. Gross profit increased. And they managed to reduce significantly their operating losses. They had a stronger cash position and even achieved positive operating cash flow.
Okay, so that's a lot of positive indicators.
Yeah.
But you said on the surface.
Yeah.
So does that mean there might be more to the story?
Exactly. While the highlights are positive,
right,
we need to look deeper.
Okay.
For example, what were the drivers of that revenue growth?
Right.
Was it sustainable?
Right.
Or were there any one-time factors that boosted the numbers?
I see. Okay.
And while their losses are decreasing, it's important to remember they are still operating at a loss overall.
So reading between the lines, so to speak.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And speaking of the future, wasn't there a big contract win?
Yes.
With Oasis Plus that Castellum announced recently?
Absolutely. And that was another piece of news that likely contributed to the stock surge.
Okay.
This contract gives Castellum a foothold in a government program.
Okay.
With potentially a decade of work supporting federal agencies.
Wow, so that sounds like a pretty solid win for Castellum.
It does.
Especially considering, their CEO, Glenn Ives, has been talking about the need for new contracts to drive what he calls transformative growth.
Right. It definitely seems to align with that strategy.
Okay.
But it's also worth asking, how much will this contract actually move the needle for Castellum?
Okay.
What's the revenue potential? What are the costs associated?
Right.
We need to delve into those details to really understand the impact.
It's starting to feel like we have this puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Like we have these fundraising efforts, the positive spin on the Q3 report, the excitement around this new contract, but yet, there's that strong sell rating from analysts just kind of looming over everything.
That's the big mystery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why are the analysts so skeptical despite all these seemingly positive developments?
Yeah.
It's like we have two completely different narratives playing out here.
All right, so let's unpack that disconnect. Why are analysts throwing shade at Castellum when everyone else seems to be cheering?
Well, both analysts covering Castellum right now have given it a strong sell rating. And this suggests that they believe the stock is significantly overvalued, even after you take into account all the recent developments. In fact, their average target price for the stock is $1.15, which is a far cry from its current trading price.
Wow, that's quite a gap.
Yeah.
So we have enthusiastic investors pushing the price up. We have cautious analysts kind of waving red flags.
Right.
What's a listener to make of all this?
That's the challenge, right? We need to understand both perspectives and figure out what's driving this contrast.
Yeah.
Is it simply a matter of timing, with investors being caught up in the hype, while analysts are taking a longer-term view? Or are analysts missing something about Castellum's potential?
Yeah, it sounds like we have a lot more ground to cover to unravel this.
We do. Yeah, it really does feel like we're looking at two different worlds.
Yeah.
Right? On one hand, you have this excitement, around Castellum's recent moves. But on the other, you have these analysts essentially saying, don't get caught up in the hype.
Yeah, it's like they're speaking different languages.
Yeah.
But why such a strong reaction from the analysts? Are they just being, overly cautious?
Well, it's possible they're taking a much more conservative approach, especially when it comes to penny stocks,
Right.
Remember, these stocks are inherently risky.
Yeah.
And those big one-day rallies rarely last.
Yeah.
It's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle.
So maybe the analysts are, looking beyond that short-term buzz.
Right.
And just focusing on those fundamentals,
Exactly.
the things that actually determine a company's long-term value.
Exactly. They might be scrutinizing Castellum's financials more closely.
Okay.
Looking for those red flags, weaknesses that aren't immediately apparent to, the average investor.
Okay.
They could also be considering the competitive landscape in the cybersecurity market, which is getting increasingly crowded.
Right. And let's not forget, the overall market sentiment.
Right.
Right. If investors start to, kind of sour on penny stocks in general.
Yeah.
That could have a ripple effect on companies like Castellum.
Absolutely.
Regardless of how well they're actually doing.
That's a great point. Market sentiment is a powerful force.
Yeah.
Especially in the world of penny stocks, It's like a tide that can either lift all boats or leave them stranded on the shore.
So it seems like the analysts are kind of playing this role of, the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Right. Urging caution amidst all this excitement.
Right.
But what about Castellum itself? What are they saying in response to all this?
Well, if you look at their CEO's statements, there's a clear emphasis on growth.
Oh, okay.
He's been very vocal about the need for new contracts
to
drive what he calls transformative growth.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They raised a bunch of money.
Right.
They need to, show investors.
Yeah.
They can use it wisely.
Exactly.
To expand their business and, actually generate some returns.
It's a put up or shut up moment for Castellum.
Yeah.
They've got the market's attention.
Right.
Now they need to deliver.
And those promises, it seems like, hinge on securing more contracts, like the one with Oasis Plus.
Right.
But even that win comes with questions, right?
Yeah.
How can we be sure
it
will actually translate into this, transformative growth?
You're hitting on a key point.
Yeah.
The Oasis Plus contract, positive development, but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
We need to understand the financial details,
Okay.
the scope of work involved, the potential for future expansion within that program.
So it's not just about winning contracts. It's about winning the right contracts, right?
The right contracts.
And then actually being able to execute on those
and executing them effectively to generate real value.
To make sure it actually, matters.
Yeah, and that's where I think the analyst skepticism comes into play.
Okay.
They're likely looking for evidence that Castellum has the management team, the operational capabilities, and the market positioning to really capitalize on these opportunities.
So it sounds like we're kind of moving beyond just the numbers now.
Yeah.
And more into the realm of strategy and execution.
Exactly.
How does Castellum stack up against its competitors in this space?
That's a crucial question, and it's one that deserves, a deeper dive.
Yeah.
We need to look at their technology.
Okay.
Their target markets, their pricing strategy, their overall track record.
Right.
Are they true innovators, or are they playing catch-up in a rapidly evolving industry?
And are they, targeting a niche within cybersecurity?
Right.
Or are they going after a broader audience?
Right. You're right.
Because that could have a big impact, right?
Yeah. Understanding their market focus is essential.
Yeah.
Are they specializing in a particular type of cybersecurity solution? Or are they trying to be a one-stop shop for all things cybersecurity?
Yeah.
Each approach has its own challenges and opportunities.
It sounds like we need to put on our detective hats.
Yes.
And really dig into their business model and their competitive landscape.
Exactly. We need to go beyond the headlines, the press releases, and understand what's happening beneath the surface.
Okay.
What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses?
Yeah.
And most importantly, what are the key factors that will determine their success or failure in the years to come?
So it's about connecting the dots, right?
Yeah.
We've got these individual pieces of information.
Yeah.
The fundraising, the earnings report, the contract win, the analyst ratings. But now we need to kind of assemble them into a coherent picture.
That's the goal.
That tells us something meaningful.
And as we piece together this puzzle, it's important to keep in mind there are always multiple perspectives.
Right.
What might seem like a red flag to one investor could be a buying opportunity to another.
Right. It all depends on your investment philosophy.
Exactly.
Your risk tolerance.
And
your overall assessment of Castellum's potential.
And speaking of potential, let's talk about the cybersecurity market itself.
Okay.
This is a sector that's experiencing rapid growth, driven by factors like increasing cyber attacks, a rise of remote work, and the growing importance of data protection.
So the market fundamentals seem to be in Castellum's favor.
Yeah.
But how can they, carve out
a
sustainable position?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
They need to differentiate themselves from the competition.
Okay.
Whether it's through innovative technology, a unique service offering, a strong brand reputation, or a combination of those factors.
It's like trying to stand out in a crowded room.
Exactly.
You need something special.
To
catch people's attention.
And make them want to choose you over everyone else.
And that's where our deep dives gets really interesting.
Right.
We need to examine, their unique selling proposition.
Yes.
What are their advantages?
Their competitive advantages.
Yeah. How do they plan to, navigate this landscape?
Right.
Which is so dynamic and always changing.
Exactly.
So we're moving from, the micro view, of Castellum's specific actions to this macro view.
The macro.
Of the cybersecurity market and their place in it.
Absolutely. By understanding the market dynamics, the competitive forces at play, and the key trends shaping the industry, we can gain a much deeper appreciation for Castellum's challenges and opportunities.
This is where we can really start to see that bigger picture.
Absolutely. We can start to see where they fit into the grand scheme of things.
And that brings us back to the central question we're trying to answer, right?
Yeah.
Is Castellum this hidden gem with the potential to become a major player?
Right.
Or are they just riding a wave of hype that's destined to crash?
That's the crux of it. And as we continue our deep dive, we'll be looking for clues that help us answer that question.
Okay.
We'll be examining their financials, their technology, their management team, their competitive landscape, and their overall strategy.
It's like we're piecing together this complex puzzle.
It is.
And each piece of information, provides a new insight.
A new insight into Castellum's story.
Okay, so let's dive back into those financials.
Okay.
We touched on the Q3 report earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see, what their historical performance looks like.
Okay.
Have they been consistently growing?
Right.
Or are they more of a, boom or bust company?
That's a great question, and it's one that can reveal a lot about a company's underlying health and stability.
Right.
Let's take a look at their revenue trends, their profitability margins, and their cash flow patterns over the past few years. This will give us a better sense of their track record and their ability to generate, sustainable growth.
And while we're at it, let's look at their debt levels.
Okay.
Have they been taking on, a lot of debt to fuel their growth?
Yeah.
Or have they been more conservative in their financing approach?
Debt can be a double-edged sword. It can provide capital for expansion, but it can also become a burden if the company's earnings don't keep pace. We need to understand Castellum's debt profile and how it might impact their future flexibility and profitability.
So we're essentially doing a financial health checkup on Castellum.
Exactly.
Looking for any signs of weakness or potential risks investors should be aware of.
Exactly. We want to understand their financial strengths and vulnerabilities so we can make a more informed assessment of their long-term prospects.
And once we have a solid grasp of their financials, we can then move on to their technology.
Okay.
What are they actually offering in terms of cybersecurity solutions? Are they cutting edge or are they lagging behind?
That's a key question, especially in a fast-paced industry like cybersecurity. We need to understand their core technologies, their product roadmap, and their approach to innovation. Are they developing truly differentiated solutions, or are they simply repackaging existing technologies?
And how does their technology stack up against the threats that businesses and government agencies are facing today?
That's a crucial point. The cybersecurity landscape is constantly evolving, with new threats emerging all the time. Castellum needs to be agile and adaptable to stay ahead of the curve.
So they need to be more than just a technology company. They need to be a security company.
The security company.
That understands the threats and can provide the solutions to mitigate those threats.
Absolutely. They need to be thought leaders, not just followers. They need to be able to anticipate future threats and develop solutions that address those challenges proactively.
It sounds like we need to kind of delve into the world of cybersecurity ourselves.
We do.
And understand the key trends, the emerging technologies, the competitive dynamics that are shaping this industry.
That's right. We need to go beyond just Castellum and understand the broader context in which they operate. This will give us a much richer understanding of their position in the market, their potential for growth, and the risks they face.
So it's about seeing the forest for the trees, so to speak.
Exactly.
We need to understand that big picture.
The big picture
of the cybersecurity market before we can really appreciate Castellum's place within it.
Absolutely. By understanding those macro trends, the competitive landscape, and the key drivers of growth, we can make a more informed assessment of Castellum's potential.
We can see whether they're actually positioned to capitalize on the opportunities in this industry.
Exactly.
It's all starting to come together now.
It is.
We've looked at their fundraising efforts, their financial performance, their contract wins, the analyst ratings, and even the overall cybersecurity market. But there's one key piece of the puzzle that we haven't really explored yet. Their management team.
That's a crucial piece indeed. The people leading the company can make or break its success. We need to look at their experience, their track record, their vision, and their ability to execute.
So we need to go beyond just the names and the titles and really understand who these people are.
Exactly.
What motivates
What motivates them.
And whether they actually have the skills and expertise to lead Castellum to success.
Exactly. We want to know if they're seasoned veterans with a proven track record in the cybersecurity industry, or if they're relative newcomers with a lot to prove. Do they have a clear vision for the future of the company? And can they articulate that vision in a way that inspires confidence and attracts talent?
It sounds like we need to do a little background check.
A little background check.
On Castellum's leadership team.
Exactly.
Looking for clues about their ability to like navigate these challenges?
We want to understand their strengths, their weaknesses, and their overall leadership style.
Okay.
Are they collaborative and inclusive, or are they more top-down and directive?
Yeah.
Do they have a history of making sound business decisions, or have they made some missteps along the way?
And maybe most importantly, do they have the integrity and the ethical compass to guide Castellum through, the cybersecurity world?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Especially in an industry where trust and reputation are paramount.
Yeah.
We need to be confident that Castellum's leaders are operating with the highest ethical standards.
Right.
And that they're committed to doing business the right way.
So it's about more than just, like, profits and growth.
It is.
It's about building a company that is sustainable, responsible, and worthy of investor confidence.
Absolutely. Investors are increasingly looking for companies that align with their values.
Right.
And ethical leadership is a key component of that.
So it sounds like we need to dig into, Castellum's corporate culture.
Their corporate culture.
And their commitment to ethical business practices.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
We can look at their code of conduct.
Okay.
Their environmental and social policies. And their track record in terms of corporate governance. This will give us a better sense of their values. And their commitment to operating as a responsible corporate citizen.
It's all starting to come together now.
It is.
We've examined, their fundraising, their financials, their technology, their market position, and their leadership team.
Right.
We've explored the opportunities and the challenges they face. And we've considered the different perspectives on their potential.
And now it's time to step back and synthesize all of this information into a cohesive narrative.
Yeah.
We need to connect the dots, identify the key themes, and draw some conclusions about Castellum's future prospects.
Okay, so let's shift gears.
All right.
And move from analysis to synthesis.
Yes.
Let's bring all these pieces together and see what picture they paint.
Exactly. We've gathered a lot of information.
Yeah.
Now it's time to make sense of it all.
Okay.
Let's start by revisiting that central question that's been guiding our deep dive. Is Castellum a hidden gem with the potential to become a major player in the cybersecurity market?
Right.
Or are they simply riding a wave of hype that's destined to crash?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And I have to admit, I'm still on the fence.
Yeah.
There are compelling arguments on both sides.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a complex situation with a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
But by carefully considering all of the evidence we've gathered, I think we can start to form a more informed opinion.
All right. Let's walk through our findings.
Okay.
And see what conclusions we can draw.
Right.
Let's start with, their fundraising efforts.
Okay.
They've raised a significant amount of capital through those 2 direct offerings.
Right.
Which suggests, they have ambitious plans for growth.
That's true, but we also need to consider the potential downsides of those offerings, such as share dilution and the possibility that they're burning through cash too quickly.
Right, those are valid concerns.
Yes.
And speaking of burning through cash,
yeah,
let's look at their financial performance.
Okay.
Their Q3 report did show some positive signs, like steady revenue and decreasing losses.
Decreasing losses, yes.
But they're still operating at a loss.
Yes.
And their historical performance has been kind of uneven.
That's right. Their financials don't paint a clear picture of consistent, profitable growth.
Right.
And we also need to consider their debt levels, which could become a burden if they aren't able to generate sufficient cash flow to service those obligations.
Okay, so their fundraising and their financials, raise some yellow flags.
Yeah.
But what about their technology and their market position?
Yeah.
They seem to be well-positioned in a growing industry.
Yeah.
And that Oasis Plus contract is, a significant win.
That's true. The cybersecurity market is booming.
Right.
And Castellum seems to have a solid foothold in a key government program. But we also need to consider the competitive landscape.
Okay.
They are facing off against some very large and well-established players.
Right.
And it remains to be seen whether they can differentiate themselves and capture a significant share of the market.
Right. And then there's the question of, their leadership team.
Right.
We haven't had time to do a deep dive into their backgrounds and track records.
Right.
But it's clear that their experience and their ability to execute will be crucial to Castellum's success.
Absolutely. The management team is the driving force behind any company.
Right.
And their vision, their strategy, and their ability to inspire and motivate their employees will ultimately determine whether Castellum can achieve its ambitious goals.
So it seems like we have this like mixed bag of positives and negatives.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely reasons to be optimistic about Castellum's future.
Yeah.
But there's also some like legitimate concerns that we just can't ignore.
We can't ignore.
So what's the verdict?
Right.
Is Castellum a buy, a sell, or a hold?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Right.
It really depends on your individual investment philosophy, your risk tolerance, and your assessment of the company's potential.
So we've come to the end of our like deep dive.
Right.
And we haven't arrived at a definitive conclusion.
Yeah.
But I think we've achieved something even more valuable.
I agree.
We've explored the complexities of Castellum's story.
Yes.
We've weighed the evidence. And I think we've gained a deeper understanding of the factors that will shape their future.
I agree, and that's the beauty of a deep dive. It's not about finding all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and engaging in a thoughtful and nuanced discussion.
And ultimately, you know, it's up to each individual investor to decide whether Castellum is an investment that aligns with their goals and their risk appetite.
Exactly. We've provided the information, the insights, and the context.
Yeah.
Now it's time for our listeners to make their own informed decisions.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Castellum, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Right.
Investing is a journey, not a destination.
That's right.
You know, it's about continuous learning.
Continuous learning.
Adapting to new information.
And
making decisions that are right for you.
And remember, the most important investment you can make is in yourself.
Yeah.
Keep learning.
Yeah.
Keep exploring.
Right.
And keep challenging yourself to think critically and make informed decisions.
I think that's a great takeaway for any investor, no matter what their experience level is.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up completely, I want to kind of circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the risks associated with penny stocks.
Right.
Especially those like experiencing these wild price swings like Castellum.
Right. Yeah, that's an important point to emphasize.
Yeah.
Penny stocks can be incredibly tempting.
Yeah.
Because of that potential for like those quick gains. But those gains can vanish just as quickly.
Right.
It's like riding a roller coaster, you know?
Yeah.
Thrilling, but potentially nausea-inducing.
Exactly. And I'm sure some of our listeners might be feeling that, like, fear of missing out right now.
Yeah.
You know, like the urge to jump on the Castellum bandwagon before it's too late.
Right.
So what words of caution would you offer to those who might be feeling that pull?
First and foremost, never invest more than you can comfortably afford to lose.
Okay.
Penny stocks are inherently speculative.
Yeah.
And there's always a chance that things could go south.
Right.
And you could lose a portion or even all of your investment.
It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Don't go all in on Castellum just because you saw a headline about, 140% jump.
Exactly. Take the time to do your own research. Don't just rely on what you've heard from others or read in a few articles.
Right.
Go deeper. Read those company filings.
Okay.
Explore independent analyst reports and form your own conclusions based on the evidence.
Become a financial detective.
Be a detective. Follow the trail of clues.
Yeah.
Look for inconsistencies.
Right.
Don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions.
And remember, investing isn't a race.
It's not a race.
It's about making informed decisions that align with your long-term financial goals.
Long-term financial goals.
Don't let FOMO, that fear of missing out, push you into something that you regret.
Yeah. So if our listener is really intrigued by Castellum and wants to explore further, what are some specific resources or strategies they can use to dig deeper?
Well, there's some great resources available online for investors of all levels. You can start by looking at Castellum's filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission.
The SEC.
That's SEC, yeah.
These filings provide detailed information about the company's financials, their business operations, and their risk factors.
Those filings can be a bit dense, though, can't they?
They can be, but they're worth the effort to understand.
Okay.
You can also find independent research reports from reputable financial institutions.
Okay.
These reports often provide a more objective analysis of a company's prospects.
And don't forget about, the power of community.
That's right.
There are online forums and communities dedicated to investing.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of connect with other investors.
Share ideas, learn from each other's experiences.
Yeah.
Just remember to always do your own due diligence.
Right.
And don't blindly follow anyone's advice.
That's great advice.
Use those communities as a sounding board.
Yeah.
Not as your sole source of information.
Not your only source.
And speaking of advice, it's never a bad idea to consult with a qualified financial advisor who can help you develop a personalized investment strategy that takes into account your individual circumstances and risk tolerance.
Absolutely.
A financial advisor can provide valuable guidance and help you navigate those complexities of the market.
Right.
They can also help you avoid emotional decisions,
Okay.
which can often lead to, costly mistakes.
Right.
Remember, investing is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Take your time, do your research, make informed decisions that will help you reach your long-term financial goals.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Castellum.
Okay.
We hope this has been a valuable and thought-provoking journey for you.
We've explored the company's recent moves, their financial performance, their technology, their market position, and even the psychology of investing, We left no stone unturned.
And most importantly, we've encouraged you to think critically.
To think critically, yes.
To question assumptions.
To question assumptions.
And to make your own informed decisions.
Your own informed decisions.
That's the key to becoming a successful and confident investor.
It is.
So whether you ultimately decide to invest in Castellum or any other company, just remember the lessons that we've discussed today.
Yeah.
Do your research, understand the risks, and never stop learning.
Never stop learning.
The world of finance is constantly evolving.
It is.
And the more you know,
the
better equipped you'll be to navigate its complexities.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Keep asking questions.
And keep diving deep into this fascinating world of finance.